we are living in very interesting times. Right now, because of the pandemic and what's been happening politically, economy, many people are starting to reevaluate their lives and they're starting to think, is this what they really want? It started with employment. People were looking at their jobs during lockdown and started thinking, we're not really valued where we're working. We're not really getting paid what we are really worth. And we're not getting that fulfillment doing this work that we're doing. There's no, that appreciation. It's not really what they want to be spending their lives doing. And that's why there was this called Great Resignation. Heard about that, Nick, where there was like there was this poll done and about over 85% of the people, they were saying they want to resign. They were looking at, trying to find other kind of work or working for themselves. And then at the same time, people have also started looking at their relationships, thinking, what? Being locked down together for so long with the same person, and they're thinking, is this what I really want? They're starting to, because maybe in the past, as they were working, they maybe barely spent so many hours together. And now all of a sudden, when you're so locked down, you're starting to annoy each other and seeing traits in the other person that you never thought were there in the first place, or that maybe you ignored before. And now you're thinking, no, I don't want to spend my life with this person. But the thing is with relationships, I think, is because there are children involved. It's not like a job where you can probably like swap and chop and change. But because children are involved in it, so the consequences are quite drastic. And so that's why it's important that we speak to someone like you today who can help us to see how people can best navigate their way around situations like this. And I know having spoken to you, you've also got a very interesting story, because not only is Nick a qualified relationship specialist, but you've also you've got your experiences.
My ex-wife had a son already when I met her. So I adopted him when we got married because he never knew his biological father. And then after that, we had 2 more children together. So we ended up with 3 children effectively. And the younger 2 were very young when our marriage wasn't going great. In hindsight, it probably wasn't going that badly, but I was in my 20s, late 20s, didn't know any better. And our marriage fell apart basically when the 2 younger kids were very young. The older one, who I adopted, was in his teens by that point. So we went through the typical process: separation, divorce, working out what that looked like. And then I think it was a year or 2 after we were properly divorced, and we were living quite close together. I was seeing the kids very regularly, at least every other weekend, probably even more than that. My goal was to try and see them I was trying to get to a 50-50, if I'm honest. That was my goal. Now, we were living in Surrey, and my ex-wife was from up further north, up in Staffordshire, and she'd started dating, and she'd moved in a guy who was from just further up in the Manchester area. So I guess I was living with this slight concern: what if they move back up north? And she always said, don't worry, that's not going to happen. I'm not going to take the kids away. And then one day it turns out, and I won't go into too much detail, but I find out they're moving north. And I'll be honest with you, my life felt like it fell apart that day. My life felt like it was over. Almost like there was a loss in the family, is how I was feeling on that day. And absolutely the darkest moment of my life, if I'm honest, up to that point, because I suddenly thought, I'm going to lose my kids. What can I do about it? And you go into that real kind of that fear factor. What's going to happen now? So I took legal advice. I was like, okay, I need to know where I stand on all of this. Can I stop her? That was my first question. Can I stop her going? Maybe that's an option. Turned out that wasn't an option. So then beyond that, it was a case of, okay, what is this going to look like going forward? They were going to move 200 miles away from where we were living. What does that look like for me? And I literally just bought a new house, and that was in the middle of doing up. I'd not long got a new job, which was an amazing new job compared to what I've been doing in terms of financial, etc. It was a great step. And I rebuilt my life. So the time for me, there was a part of me that thought, shall I move too? But this was the worst time ever for me to think about changing my life completely and going to somewhere that I didn't want to live, if I'm being honest. I liked where I lived in Surrey. We had tried living further up north together and it hadn't worked out for me. So I spoke to my ex and she said, well, you can see the kids maybe once a month and they'll be fine. Don't worry about it. You can come up and see them once a month. That's okay. And I thought, well, that's not good enough. You know, I've been seeing them at least every other weekend. I'm not going to once a month. They still need to be around me and my family down in the south. That's not happening. So we had to go to court. And, yeah, you know, I proposed was that 2 out of the 3 weekends, they would come down to me. So we would meet halfway. So we'd both drive 100 miles. We'd meet at a service station on the M40. Became like my second home, if I'm honest. And then I'd bring them back on a Friday night. And then on a Sunday, I'd take them back up there and I'd meet them again and they'd go home from there. And then every third weekend that was mine, so every 6 weeks, I would rent somewhere up near where they lived and we'd go and stay up there for the week. So they didn't have to travel every time.
But it's still a distance, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was doing a round trip of 200 miles every other Friday and Sunday. And then every 6th week, I was doing the full 200 up there, 200 back. So it's a lot of travel. You're spending a lot of money. You know, every 6 weeks, I was having to find accommodation. I didn't want to stay in a hotel. It wasn't going to work out too well. So I was trying to find sort of self-catering places, and it all adds up. It all adds up. Friday night traffic. You can imagine that the thoughts that used to go through my mind sitting on a motorway on a Friday afternoon after work, trying to get around the M25, all my days. And I'll be honest, I was cursing my ex at that time, thinking, why did you move away? Why have you put us in this situation? She was cursing me, thinking, why are you forcing me to make my kids travel every other weekend? Let's be straight. Everything I'm saying is from my perspective, and she's not here to give us her perspective. And I understand it would be very different. I'm just relating to what I went through. Okay. So that became life as I knew it. Every other weekend, Fridays, Sundays, have the kids and just make sure that I did as much as I could with them when I had them. And I made sure I also didn't let myself go when I didn't have them, because I think that's really important. When I speak to a lot of dads, they struggle when they haven't got their kids. And I always say, you know, that's a time to work on you.
Exactly.
You know, that's the time to become the best version of you that you can become, so that when you've got your kids, you're in the right place. There's no point moping around for 12 days. It's not going to change it. There's no point being angry for 12 days. It's not going to change it. So I just focused on living my best life 12 days out of 14, and then being absolutely, you know, an amazing dad for 2 of them, 3 of them, and then go again, rinse and repeat. Any social commitment, it never happened. You know, I was never busy doing other things with my mates when it was my weekend with the kids. If it was a golf weekend or anything, it's like, no, that's not going to work. All right. Let's not think that that's acceptable to have your kids and then hand them over to your mum or dad.
Yeah.
And you go off and do what you want to do or anything like that. It makes sure you're there with them. Come on. You don't get much time.
It's the only quality time you have with them, isn't it?
100%. But, you know, 2 days out of 14 is not great. And so I was pushing to, okay, let's speak to them on the phone. They didn't like talking on the phone at that age. They, you know, they're young, they still don't like talking on the phone now. They're teenagers, but, you know, they don't mind texting and other such things. But that was a challenge because the phone just wouldn't get answered. I would phone at the court actually allotted us a time, a half-hour slot, 3 days a week where I was to call them, and it wouldn't get answered. And again, you're like, well, what do I do? There's not much you can do. You know, you can't. There's no point going back to court because the phone's not getting answered. I don't think it's going to change. So
do that. Yeah, they've bought phones for their children, and still somehow the phones don't get answered because
absolutely. So you know, I just thought, okay, what else can I do? I made sure I always made the call. Whether they answered or not, that was another matter. They might have answered and said, "We don't want to talk tonight, Dad," and you're like, "Oh no, I'm losing them." But you're not. They just don't want to talk. It's okay. Yeah. So I started writing to them every other weekend. I would handwrite a letter, and I should have been a doctor because I can't write. So sorry, doctors. But I would handwrite them a letter, and I called it Dad's Diary. And it was like this is what I've done since you last saw me, so that you know what's going on in my life, because I wanted to make sure they knew what was going on in my world. I was talking to my son today. He's still got, I mean, he is 20 years old now. So this is a while ago now. He's still got a whole load of those letters from back then.
Awesome. Wow.
Which is fantastic. He probably never read them, but
well, that's good. That's great.
But he's got them. That must mean something, right?
It's and so it was all well worth it, isn't it? It was worth it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Then I did them a YouTube channel, and so every now and then I would just record something on YouTube. It might be me talking. Yeah. It might be me doing something stupid. I did a puppet show with a load of their toys and dolls, and it's still on YouTube. They're so embarrassed by it now.
That's, it just shows that commitment and dedication, and you were not letting anything stop you. You were trying. Absolutely. You were being so creative in all your ways to get through. So it was
that's all it is. Is like keep pushing, keep thinking. What can I do? What can I do? Yeah. How can I show them that I'm there, and how can I find a way that they might relate to? And that was all it's about. And this has been going on for 13 years. Yeah. So now they're grown up, but my relationship with them is absolutely brilliant.
Wow.
And it always has been. And, even though we had limited time, it's an incredible relationship. My daughter would say it's as good a relationship as she's seen any of her friends have whose dads are around all the time. And I value that. But I believe it's because I put everything into that time with them.
And that's so inspiring, because some people think, oh, well, I've only got this little time. So some actually give up, they think, oh, well, it's no point if I'm just going to see my kids maybe once a week or this much. But as you said, all those little bits, those bits of time that you had is all added up, and now they appreciate what you've done for them. So
100%. Yeah. They've said to me, and they've said, we're glad you went to court to make sure you still saw us. Now, they're not glad that I had to take their mum to court and their mum went through a horrible experience. And I get that. No one will want anyone to go through that.
True.
But they're glad I fought. That was the message. They're glad I'm fought for them, because I wasn't settling for once a month. I wasn't settling for, oh, well, you'll be all right without me. Yeah. I believe that kids need a dad as much as they need a mum, as long as that dad shows up.
That's amazing. And that's this part of your story that inspired me a lot, because there was a time when I was about to give up in my own story, trying to get access to see my daughter, and just hearing your story, how you just kept on, and that kind of made me think, okay, because I thought, okay, wait, I might just wait until she turns 18 and then she will then find me. And then there was a great chance I knew she probably said, I don't know you, so I don't care about you. Who are you? So.
Yeah, or she might have got to 18 and said, show me how hard you tried, Dad.
Exactly.
And we need to be able to look ourselves in the eyes and look our kids in the eyes and said, this is what I tried to do. This is how hard I tried. And if I hit a brick wall, I hit a brick wall, but I kept trying to get through that brick wall.
Nice.
And that's what they want to know, because, the thing that breaks my heart in these situations, Peter, is that it's the kids who suffer. Yeah, we suffer as dads, don't get me wrong. I know this is a major cause of pain for so many dads out there. And the mums are suffering in various ways, because this isn't what they planned most of the time either. They didn't want to be single mums. Exactly. They didn't plan for that. And they don't want to not have their children with them some of the time because their kids are with their dad. That wasn't their plan when they started a family. So I get that. There's a lot of broken expectation in that formula. But the kids, they're completely innocent.
Yeah.
They just came into the world, and they at no point said, Mum, Dad, we don't want a relationship with you. But somewhere between Mum and Dad not being able to make it work, decisions were made that says, oh, sorry, kids, but we're going to make it really hard for you to have that relationship.
That's right.
And I don't think that's fair. And that has to change, quite frankly.
It reminds me of a saying. They say, if two elephants fight, it's the grass that suffers, And so it's like...
There you go. Oh, yeah. I've not heard that saying before, but I like it. And it's so true.
So it's an African saying. I heard it, yeah.
I've never described my ex-wife as an elephant, by the way. Or anyone else.
Yeah. But it's just true, isn't it? It's the innocent one. It's the innocent ones that suffer, though, isn't it?
100%. Yeah. And every day, Peter, but we've just had a guy staying with us. He's actually become like family to us. He lives in New Zealand. His story puts mine to shame. So his story ends up being that his wife comes back to England and stays in England with their daughter. And the first he knew about it, he'd gone back to New Zealand thinking they were coming back.
Yeah.
And now he's on the other side of the world from his daughter. And so he flies over here and spends about 5 weeks staying with us because his daughter lives close by to see his daughter. Now, COVID made that a nightmare for him. He couldn't see her for a year.
Yeah, because we're all shut down. Yes.
Absolutely. But before that, he was coming over a few times a year. Now that's commitment. When he messages me on a Friday and said, I'm leaving now, and he sees me on the Sunday, that's commitment to seeing your child.
That's the ultimate. That's definitely all the way from New Zealand.
The relationship they have is off the charts. Off the charts. It's beautiful.
It's well worth that flight, that long flight. Yeah.
So if you're out there and it's a half-hour drive, an hour's drive to see your child, come on, guys. Yes. Like, be grateful you've got the opportunity.
Exactly.
All. There's a long way for us all to go to find a system that protects dad as well as mum during these separations. All we know at the moment is that when there's a separation, there's probably anger, there's probably hurt, there's probably upset, frustration on at least one side of the pair that are splitting up. And when that happens, we often see kids being used as a weapon.
That's so true.
And I don't understand why it's happening the way it's happening. I don't understand why a dad can't see his daughter or his son for 14 years. I would love the mum to come on here and tell me. Yeah, that's always been my invite, and I've put that out so many times on Facebook. Mums, come and talk to me. I would like to be the guy that understands both sides of the story. Another saying is there's 3 sides to every story, right? Your side, my side, and the truth.
Yes.
I often get the man side, the dad side. And it's normally that they haven't done a lot wrong. They've probably been a really bad partner. Let's be honest. Yes, they might have cheated. They might have got another woman pregnant. They might have done 100 things that upset the woman. I get it.
Yep.
All right. What have they done to be a bad dad? That's what I want to know.
Exactly.
Because if the answer to that is nothing, then why are you stopping them being a dad?
Shouldn't be punished for that, isn't it? Yeah.
Shouldn't be punished for that. Punish them for the things they've done to hurt you. Yes. But that punishment is you know you're no longer friends and the relationship's over. Yeah. Don't punish them or don't punish the kids.
Yeah, using them as weapons.
Them being a dad, that's wrong.
No.
That's so wrong.
So Nick, are most of your clients men?
No. Well, funny enough. So what happened was I've always worked in corporate in IT. Weirdly, I'm not an IT guy. There's just these things happen, right? And when the money rolls in, you're like, yeah, I'll stay in the job. It's all good. Yeah. And as a few years ago, I've had this passion. I've always been into self-development, coaching, all of that. And my passion was to help other dads who might be going through what I was going through. And so I started something on Facebook. I called it Dad Up because I want dads to dad up. It's similar to Man Up. Now everyone's like, oh, we hate the phrase man up. It's toxic masculinity. Oh, I was like, yeah, but Dad Up just says be the best dad you can be.
Awesome. Yeah.
That was the idea of it. And then I actually left my corporate job and I thought, right, let's see if I can turn this into a business. And, you know, you're sold the dream, aren't you? You're sold the online dream. Yeah, you can get a 6-figure business online. Just go live on Facebook a few times and boom. And boom doesn't happen, right? So I was in groups on Facebook and I was like, dads, if you want help, I'm here. I was offering free coaching to dads.
Free coaching as well.
Nothing's biting. And then the minute you mention actually paying for it, it's like, oh, I don't want to pay for it. Men are an interesting bunch, right? We don't want to admit we need help.
Exactly.
I mean, come on. So we think, no, I can fix this problem on my own. That's fine. So then I thought, okay, why don't I work with couples? Because if I work with couples, maybe I can stop the split happening. And if I can stop the split happening, then the kids don't suffer.
Exactly.
And maybe we can make some bad relationships better so that the kids actually like, mum and dad get on well.
Right.
And we can start modeling good relationships. Because I'll often say to my couples, tell me who is your role model for relationships when you were growing up. But obviously it was mum and dad. So if mum and dad fought, then all that person witnessed growing up is mum and dad fighting how not to do relationship.
Oh yeah.
Mum and dad were really loving towards each other and treated each other with respect and the right way, then that's what they witnessed, and that's probably playing out in their relationship. So it's key. We're setting an example, whether we realize it or not. And if we don't set it, social media, television is setting it. Someone's setting an example because school's not teaching it. None of us are going to school and being taught about relationships.
We have to figure it out
So what
ourselves.
do? We leave school, we get into a relationship with someone that we're attracted to.
Uh,
And then we go through a whole process, which we might talk about in a minute. And that relationship goes wrong. And we're like, oh, I've learned so many lessons. But maybe we've already had our children and maybe we've messed up. So yeah, I went down the route of working with couples and became a relationship specialist, working mainly with couples. I do some work with individuals.
mm-hmm.
Some people have come to me and the other person in the relationship won't speak to me. So I'm only working with one person. It's a lot harder to create change, but you can.
Yeah, it would be nice if both come together.
It would be that I would say my much higher success rate is when both of the couple come to me. But I don't have 100% success rate, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend I do.
But you can only try. And the thing is, like, I always believe like people should have coaches, like relationship specialists, because, for example, if you look at, say, football, right, the best football players, Lionel Messi, Mohamed Salah, Ronaldo, they've all got coaches. They get coached every week. And the relationship, something so important. People will say, I'm not willing to invest in that.
That's
and when things go wrong, the cost, though, is so much. Apart from the legal costs, the children that get
exactly. People don't want to spend a few £100s on a relationship coaching course. But they'll end up spending thousands upon thousands on a divorce.
Exactly.
And it doesn't make sense.
Yes.
It doesn't make sense. But what happens so often is that they think they can fix the problem themselves. men more than women.
Exactly. Because
I was talking to my friend about this, and I think he called it shotgun counseling. And it's literally that the guy comes on here and is like, okay, so she has actually packed her bags now. So I think I probably need to speak to you. It's like, she's been telling him for 6 months, we should speak to a relationship specialist, or we should get some marriage guidance. No, we'll sort this out. Don't worry. And she keeps thinking, oh, maybe he'll change now because he's heard I'm serious. And he puts in a day or two of effort. And then he sees her okay. Oh, I can breathe again now. I can relax again. And it goes bad again because he still hasn't learned the right things. And I'm picking on the guy here. And that ends up to a point where it's literally the ultimatum. We speak to someone now or I'm out of here. Oh, okay. Well, I'll ring an expert then. And that's when they come to me. It's like, why didn't you come to me 6 months ago? Exactly. When you still had some form of relationship with each other, when you hadn't gone too far down the path, when one of you hadn't started having an emotional or physical affair with someone else. Like, those are the ones where I struggle to have a really good outcome, because one of them is pretty much checked out already.
So they come to when it's like almost beyond.
It's almost too late.
Yeah.
Because then people expect change overnight, because that's the culture we live in, right? Yeah. Everything can happen tomorrow. Well, you can't change a relationship overnight. You can put in overnight change that starts to make a difference. But if you have both been doing things over years and years that have made your relationship go really bad, it's not going to change overnight. It's going to take some time and some investment.
Yes.
We take our car to get it serviced every year so that it doesn't break down.
Exactly.
Yeah, different approach. Yeah. If you wait for your car to break down, then you take it for the guy who's probably like, oh, you should have brought this to me 6 months ago. You've run it into the ground, you crazy guy. So that's the difference.
Exactly. So it's a choice of being either reactive or either you're going to react to stuff or you're going to be like proactive. So it's best
exactly.
Get someone
be
on
proactive. Your side. It's one of the 7 habits of highly effective people. If anyone's read that book by Stephen Covey, be proactive. Like, there's a reason why that's one of the 7 habits, because it's a good habit. It's a good thing to do, right?
Avoid the problems.
But it's basic. So I try and just teach couples tools. I give them a toolbox and say, these things will change your relationship. And one of the keys, I think, to a relationship is understanding each other and understanding yourself, and understanding that. So typically in our world, we think that our model of the world must be everyone else's model of the world. So the things that matter to us probably matter to other people. Things that don't matter to us probably don't matter to other people. And then we get this huge shock when we find out that our partner completely different. So we explore our models of the world to understand what's important to me and what's important to you in a relationship. And how can I give you the things that are important to you and you give me the things that are important to me? And then we stop wasting time doing all these things that we think will make a big difference to our relationship.
Yeah.
And they don't. And then our partner turns around and says, well, I'm not feeling loved, or I'm not feeling it, something. I was like, oh, but I've been trying so hard. Yeah, but you haven't been trying in the right area.
Yeah.
You know, you've been using the wrong tool. That's basically what it is. You can't hammer a nail in with something other than a hammer very easily, because it's the wrong tool for the job. You can't cut wood with a hammer because it's the wrong tool for the job. It's the same with understanding yourself and understanding each other. There's a level of understanding that I really think is missing in this world, which is the difference between men and women. And now we go into that, whoa, hang on a minute. But you know what? Equality is one thing, and I'm all for equality, don't get me wrong. But there's a massive difference between the way 80% of men are wired and 80% of women are wired.
No, that's true. We can't
learn it.
Yeah.
Because women are not hairy versions. Men are not hairy versions of women. We don't think the way women think. We don't react the way women react. And women are not better looking versions of us. They don't think the way we think.
No, yeah.
So when we expect a woman to react and behave like we would, and they don't, we're like, who have I married? And when we don't react the way they expect us to, they're like, oh, what a caveman. Why is he acting like that? And they ring up their friends and complain because their friends react the same way as them because they're women.
Yeah.
And it's not our gender. It's something called our energy. It's our feminine and masculine energy. And there's a huge, huge thing about that if we understood it more, it would make a massive difference. Exactly. Anyone wants to understand it more, grab a book by David Dida, either The Way of the Superior Man or Intimate Communion. It talks about this topic and it nails it.
What's the book called again?
The best book is The Way of the Superior Man by David Dida, D-E-I-D-A. Oh. And it explains how the feminine is so different from the masculine. Now, some women are more masculine than feminine. Some men are more feminine than masculine. But generally, 80% of men spend most of their time in their masculine state. 80% of women are in their feminine state. When the two combine, it's chemistry, it's polarity. It's like opposite ends of a magnet go boom, it's all good. That's what creates the magic of relationship and attraction.
I was just about to say, and that's the beauty of it. I mean, that's what they say, opposites attract, and that's what it is.
Opposites attract. That's exactly it. But in relationships, too many times, the woman wants the man to become more like a woman.
Yeah, and the man wants
a woman to become more like another man. Well, when I'm with my mates, I can behave like this. So why can't I behave like that with you?
Yeah.
Well, because she's a woman.
Exactly.
And if she becomes more like you, then you're not going to want to get into bed and get passionate with her at night because she's going to act like a bloke.
No, that's so true.
And if you become like a woman, she can be like, well, where's my man gone?
Yeah.
Because you've lost that edge that made you appeal to her in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So if we understood this in relationships, we wouldn't try and change each other quite as much. We would just realize that that's the opposite that attracted us. Exactly. And sometimes that then annoys us, but we have to understand it.
So, Nick, if people want to get in touch with you and to maybe learn more about maybe the coaching or just to hear more, connect with you, how best can they do that?
My website is probably the easiest way to connect with me. Obviously, I'm on Facebook, but my website is nickthielcoaching.com. So if you can remember how to spell Thiel, you're in with a good chance of finding my website. And if you go there, there's an opportunity to contact me. All my details are on there. There's a link you can actually book a free discovery call with me. So if you want to chat with me, or you and your partner want to chat with me, you can have a half hour, won't cost you a penny, find out what it might look like to have some relationship coaching. I've worked with couples 5-6 sessions and transformed their relationships. And you can go and read some of their testimonials through my website as well.
NickThielCoaching.com.
NickThielCoaching.com. Nice and easy.
Right now, so that they can see it. I think I had it as doing that in the background. And so here we go. And I know you did mention that there was a book that they can check. It's called The Way of the
Superior Man.
The Way of the Superior Man.
By David Dida, which is D-E-I-D-A. It's an interesting read, but it's I remember the first time I read it and I was like, wow, I fell in love with women, if that makes sense.
Is it?
And all of the things that were frustrating me, it was while I was dating, the things that were frustrating me around women being much more emotional than I would be, and they were up and down a lot more, and their moods would change a lot more, and I didn't get any of it. And I thought, oh, I just need someone like more like me. And then I read this book and I got it, and I was like, oh, they're beautiful. It's amazing.
Exactly. You appreciate them more, isn't it?
Oh, big time. It's an appreciation of the things that tend to attract, rather than running away from it and thinking I can't handle it. Actually, the masculine man would stand there and go, bring it on. Let me be a rock while you like batter me as a wave of energy in the feminine. And it's a completely different concept.
Wow. I know that. Well, if, as I said, people, it's best that if they probably don't want to read the book, but they just get in touch with you. At least
just get in touch with me. I cover all of this in my coaching sessions. And I when I'm working with couples, I see this all play out. And it's fascinating to see. When I do communication, the way men communicate, the way women communicate, there are differences. And as you're talking to a couple, they so often, they're just like straight out of the book. And it's fascinating to see, these books, you read them and you think, I wonder if that's true. And then you see it play out and you're like, well, yeah, it's true.
Wow. It's so predictable. It just plays out.
Absolutely. You don't, most cases are the same. The things that are frustrating couples about each other, it's very often the same sort of thing.
Super amazing. Well, Nick, I think it's been such a pleasure, and it's an honor to actually have you here. As I said, it's a bank holiday here today, and for those that are watching at home, thank you so much, because being holiday, obviously they could have been doing something else, but they obviously know that this is something so crucial, especially this day and age that we're living in right now, where relationships are just not the same like they used to be.
They're not the same. They're not the same. And there's so much going on in our culture and our society that are making it harder. Exactly. And men are lost. Men are lost as to how to be anymore, because we got told you can't be like you can't be a certain way because you're like a caveman when you're that way.
Would you say that we've had like our masculinity taken away, or what is it?
There's been that, there's been a whole host of that. There's been a confusion with what a real man looks like, which is why that phrase man up became so like, ooh, we don't like that. To me, man up just means be a good man. But people don't understand what a good man is anymore. Should I show emotion and cry, or should I not? Like, should I try and take the lead in the house or not? Like, what does all this look like for a man? And women are equally lost, because they're like, where are all the good men? And I know that I've seen so many groups on Facebook where women are pitching up saying, where are these good men? Because so men are lost, and they're still looking for a good man, a leader, a strong man. But when he doesn't show up, then the woman takes the leadership. But that affects the masculine, feminine energy in the relationship again.
Whole dynamics gets messed up, and all
the dynamics. I'll tell you a very common one, Peter, and I know we're kind of coming to an end, but over the years, women have become more and more empowered to go out and work and have careers and be successful, be independent. And I love that. It's great. Most jobs require a fairly strong masculine energy, because it's the masculine energy that's the decision making. It's got direction, it's got focus, it's goal driven. That's masculine energy. Now, women can adopt that, and they do it fantastically. And I work with a lot of women in corporate world who are like that. Now, here's the thing. When that woman goes home, if she stays in her masculine and her partner is masculine, you've got two masculine energies in the house, not working too well.
No.
So then the guy has two options. He stays in the masculine, and that can go a bit wrong. Or maybe he slips into a more feminine in the household to allow the woman to be masculine. And then she sat there going, where's my man?
Yeah, that's true.
So actually, when she comes home, she wants to be able to drop back in her feminine, relax. So there's a whole host of work to be done. Men need to rediscover their purpose in life, who they are and what they stand for. And for women, I think if I could say anything, it's try and encourage your man, allow him to be the man. Because women are so strong and independent these days that they don't need us, but it's okay to let us feel needed, to allow that masculine back, That's part of relationship.
That's how it should be.
That's part of relationship. It's becoming more and more spoken about now, but it's not been spoken about enough. And we do have to understand that when we talk about masculine and feminine, we're not talking about gender. We're talking about the energy that you're showing in that moment.
That's right.
We both access either. That's what's important to say. But women generally, 80%, want to be more feminine most of the time if they can be.
It just makes sense. Like if you look at electricity, I mean, there's like positives to negatives. It's just the whole thing. This is how the universe operates, isn't it?
I'm going to give you a very personal, close to home example. When I left corporate and I was coaching, I wasn't bringing in very much money. Okay. My wife had set up her own counseling business and that was thriving. Now, in myself, I started to not feel great about myself because I wasn't contributing at the level I wanted to.
So
I'd gone from a 6-figure income to a small income. So yeah, and I lost my sense of self. Okay. But what's worse is that my wife, in working as hard as she was working, because she felt responsible to pay the bills all of a sudden, she took that responsibility and she lost who she was. And she was basically in her masculine all day long trying to work. Our relationship took a horrible tumble. This is just reality, right? Straight from my own personal example. And it got to a point where I've had to go back. On top of my coaching, I've gone back into corporate work during the day. So I coach at night and I work during the day. Now, the transformation in my wife, when that happened, phenomenal. So you can say what you want to me, but I am living proof, because it's like if she was like a flower, she had closed right up and she was wilting. Because she had that job and took care of things, she's gone back into full bloom.
Thank you so much for sharing that. But because that is something that unfortunately is going to happen as well right now with the economy the way it is. Sometimes some men might lose their jobs, work less hours, and their wives might start working more. Yes. And that could have
it can have an impact.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And there's a lot behind it. So don't get me wrong. It's not like, oh, she doesn't want to work, blah blah blah, because she does. But she wants to see me putting in my shift. She wants to see me stepping up.
It's just probably like the traditional role of the man. He's always been like the.
Yeah, we can debate it all day long, but it plays out, and that's what amuses me when people try and argue about it.
Yeah.
Which doesn't bring into question equality. It brings into question just our natural states.
Natural state, yeah. Days of the caveman, men were the hunters and the gatherers. The women were the.
Women like to feel safe.
Yeah.
Women like to feel safe, and I will raise that with all my couples. And the women will always, there's physical safety, there's emotional safety, there's financial safety. When a woman doesn't feel safe, she does what she needs to do to feel safe, and often that's adopt the masculine energy and go and fix the problem.
And that will clash with the man. Yes, right. That causes a clash. Yeah, and I've seen that happen. I've definitely seen that happen.
Absolutely. So when you put her back into feeling safe, she goes back into full bloom. Everything's good.
I've seen that like in my personal relationships where I was not sometimes giving them that maybe security or making them feel loved and stuff like that. And they obviously, So we think, she got it.
And I think that explains a lot why when a separation happens, again, a woman might go into feeling very unsafe. She didn't know what's coming.
Exactly.
Because what she thought was this lovely family unit is no longer. Exactly. So it's no wonder that she starts to react. Now, we're not agreeing with the way she might react, but we can understand why
she does that. Exactly. That's the only way she knows how to fight back.
We all have an animal inside of us, and we act out of animal instinct when we're scared. It's our scared animal. So when we're scared, the animal comes out, and we're not in control of that animal. We all do it. When we're angry, when we're scared, we react. It's normally the times we then get into trouble.
Yeah.
Because not enough of us are learning that, this is my scared animal. Let me find some way of calming myself, grounding myself, and allowing my human spirit to come back out, which is the calm part of me, that wouldn't shout and get aggressive, but would treat the situation better. But we're not doing it. We're acting out of fear.
That's why it's so important to get that kind of coaching from you, to show people, like, if anyone maybe that's not in a relationship listens to this, they will also just find it inspiring, because just the sacrifices that you made for your children as well, traveling all those miles, and for those people, say, in other countries, like maybe South America or Africa, where they use kilometers instead of miles. I think 200 miles is about 322 kilometers. So
Yeah,
you
probably is.
a round trip of 400 miles actually
Mm.
every second week. And the results, you're there to prove it. You're showing
Results.
that it was worth it, well worth it.
Mm-hmm.
And your friend that comes all the way from New Zealand, traveling up to see halfway around the world, and he's thriving.
Yeah.
And
there's stories like this all around the world. There are dads that are putting in the shift,
yes,
and there are dads that aren't. And so all the dads that aren't, I encourage you to start putting in the shift if you've got the opportunity to.
Exactly. And
it's on my to-do list, Peter, is to try and find ways where we break through and stop what's going on in terms of dads not seeing their kids.
Exactly.
There will be answers, and I'd like to find them. If anyone's listening to this that has more answers, if any women are listening to this that are on the other side of this story, and you'd be willing to come to me privately and share your story with me so that I can understand it, I would love that. Love that opportunity.
You can find Nick Thiel on Facebook, or you've also got his website. You can, definitely, you can message you and all in confidence.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Bring your stories to me. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow. So anything maybe else you want to, any last word of advice? Because you've said so much that has been so
I have said so much. That's one of my problems. I say too much.
No,
but I think, if you're in a relationship, then consider, is it worth a small investment to safeguard your relationship going forward? Because just a few sessions, you can learn the important tools of doing relationship well. If you're not in a relationship, but you want to be in a relationship, I'd say the same thing. Get good at being in a relationship before you get into the next one.
I think
why wait for the next one?
Yeah. Like I said, I think I said something like that too. I said, I wish I'd spoken to someone like you before. I wish I'd met you before. I would definitely have avoided so much stress and anger. I probably still would have had my afro. Definitely. Whether you are,
if the younger version of me had talked to me back then, I might not have listened. And I've got to be, I understand that men in their 20s don't really want advice. But what I would have said to that younger version of me would have changed my marriage back then. 100%. And that's what drives me.
But it's not too late, at least, it's never too late to learn, We still, this is what it's all about. I think there is a saying by Jim Rohn that a person's life is either an example or a warning. So you have been a great example of, so.
Yeah, and hopefully my current wife, for those of you that might be confused, I got remarried almost 5 years ago. Then hopefully she would say I'm a much better husband now than I might have been back then.
So you've learned from,
I've learned from my mistakes. I'm held accountable because I can't work with couples and tell them how to do things well if I'm not doing it myself. And my wife will hold me up to that and say, is this what you would tell your couples to do? So there's no hiding when you do this sort of lip thing for a living. There's no hiding from it.
Awesome, and and that's what makes you also so special as well, because you're not just qualified, having gone down the courses and got the certifications, but you've lived it, you've experienced it, you've done it, wanted to, so you know what you're talking about.
I do. I'd like to think so. Some of the time. Yeah. Well, but also, in my last comment, when you said, did I have anything else to say to the dads out there, repeat of what I said before, don't give up. There's always one more fight. And one day your kids will seek answers. And when they seek answers, make sure that you can look at them and yourself and say, I tried.
I like the way you were so creative as well. When you set up the writing, the diary, Dad's diary, the YouTube channel, and all that, and it all meant a lot. And I just wanted to ask, your site, Dad's Up, is it still up? Do you still have it, or is it?
I have a Facebook page called Dad Up, but I don't do anything with it anymore because I've just focused on the relationship work at the moment.
Oh, okay.
And there is, I haven't let it die because there is a hope that I can return to that because ultimately my passion is to help dads.
Yeah.
I just thought maybe I can influence couples because that has the same impact.
It's good that you're doing the both, because men and women as well. And even though the men, I think, are a bit slow to ask for help and go for help, but I know there's quite a lot of men out there that do need help, and hopefully, at least they know you are out there. And
absolutely. And I run a men's group as well, and I haven't done it through the summer, but I'm going to start it back up again, where we try and meet every 2 or 3 weeks. And there's a very small bunch of us. We meet over Zoom, and it's not me coaching them. It's a few guys that I've worked with in the past. We come on there, we hold each other accountable, we talk about life. It's a wonderful place to come and get around some good men. If anyone wants to hear about that as well, then please, again, come through my website and get in touch with me. I run one for the women as well. So, again, a great opportunity. Free of charge. It's not something I make money from. It's something I do out of passion.
So basically, you just answered even the question, like, what was the pivotal moment? What made you do that? It's just your experience, what you've gone through, and you've just made you like.
I made a decision at some point that said, if I can stop one family going through what my family went through, then it's going to be worth it.
Yes.
Because I still see, when my kids are the age they are, I still see that there's some pain that mum and dad aren't together. And I have to take at least 50% responsibility for that, because whenever a relationship breaks down, there's blame on both sides. That's it.
But at least you've done the best you could. I mean, I know
done the best I can with the circumstances that I then found myself in.
Yeah, and at the time that's all you knew at that time. But now, obviously, if you knew what you know right now, you'd have definitely.
Yes, and a wonderful phrase is people do the best they can with the resources they have at the time.
Wow, Nick, as I said, people can definitely get in touch with you, and
100%.
Thank you so much for your time. And I'm so glad to have made the connection with you.
Yeah, absolutely, and you too, Peter. You too. It's been a pleasure and a privilege to be on. So thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, and you take care and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you. You too. Take care.
Awesome. So thank you, everybody. Take care. Thank you, everybody, once again. It's been such a pleasure having Nick over here. And as you said, feel free to get in touch with him. That's nickthielcoaching.com. nickthielcoaching.com. It's on the screen. And you can find him on Facebook. And you may think, oh, I don't need coaching right now. But you never know. You might need it in the future. And it's best to know so that you can avoid issues later on in your relationship or in your life. And this, I found his story so inspiring, because apart from it just being to do with relationships, imagine all the sacrifices he made. He could have just given up, but he just kept on going, being creative. When there were obstacles in his way, he found ways to be creative and work around it. So we too, whatever obstacles we face right now, you got goals, you got dreams. Does not mean you should just give up now when you find things are hard, because now the economy has changed and everything is turned the way you're not expecting it to go. You can always find a way to persist. Don't give up. Keep moving.